My name is Peter Turner. For the last few years, my colleagues and I have been working on a specialised artificial intelligence for the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We've continued on the previous work of the AI department, writing the code for a program that would hopefully give us solutions to one of the most pressing problems of our age, climate change. We fed our code into the most powerful central processing unit the world has ever seen, along with thousands of gigabytes worth of data on planetary, environmental and human history. The CPU, who we've nicknamed Gaia, would then be able to answer any and every query we might pose to it, in a simple, practical manner. Our entire team was beyond excited on the day of the first test session. It had taken months of work, appropriating finances from different departments to fund what some had called a mere political stunt. But we had faith in our project. Gaia had been designed to think both in and outside the box, so to speak. So we estimated that the possibility of him giving us new and possibly revolutionary ideas on how to solve climate change were extremely high. So there in the lab we sat, crowded around a microphone and computer that was hooked up to MIT's central CPU, along with the hard drives that contained Gaia's data. We booted up the programs and I kicked off the proceedings with a friendly greeting. "Hello Gaia," I said into the mic.
"Good morning, Peter,"
he replied. The room shifted with excitement. It was working. "And how are you this morning?"
"I am very well, thank you. I am ready for our question and answer session today."
"Excellent. Firstly, do you know what climate change is, Gaia?"
"Yes, I do. Climate change is when changes in Earth's climate system result in new weather patterns that remain in place for an extended period of time. This length of time can be as short as a few decades to as long as a few million years. There have been many episodes of climate change during the Earth's geological history. More recently, since the Industrial Revolution, the climate has increasingly been affected by global warming,"
she replied. It was a textbook answer. "Correct, that's very impressive, Gaia."
"Thank you, Peter. I enjoy learning,"
it replied. A giggle of exhilaration ripped around the team. "Now Gaia, time for some tougher questions," I said with a grin. "Is there anything humans can do that we're not doing already to slow down the process of climate change?" There was a pause, a silence in which I could feel the tension hanging thick in the air.
"Yes,"
Gaia said.
"I can think of many ways in which humans can slow down or even halt the effects of global warming and climate change in general."
"Then please, don't keep us in suspense." I was starting to regret not bringing a few bottles of champagne along with me. Computer lab or not, this had the possibility of being the scientific breakthrough of our age.
"Human economies must be permanently restructured. Industrial processes must be scaled down, or in some cases must cease entirely."
We had guessed a suggestion like this would be put forward, but that would leave many people without employment.
"No, those left over from industrial streamlining are a prime pool of labour for carbon sink projects."
"And how would they be paid?"
"The current economic model sets the compensation for labour as financial reward. The new economic model would have environmental well-being as the reward."
"So they're not getting paid. I don't think they'd be too happy with the idea of slave labour."
"Happiness is not essential for human or planetary survival,"
it replied. We expected there to be more to the answer, but there wasn't. My team shifted uncomfortably before I next spoke. But happiness along with financial security is perhaps the biggest motivator in the human psyche. How would we be able to motivate intelligent animals like humans without those two things? There was another brief pause.
"Intelligence is non-essential to human or planetary survival. With the advent of artificial intelligence, human acumen is obsolete. I suggest a simple medical procedure to render the question of intelligence a moot point."
"What medical procedure is that, Gaia?" I was no longer smiling.
"A surgical procedure involving incision into the prefrontal lobe of the brain."
"You mean a lobotomy?"
"Following the procedure, spontaneity, responsiveness and self-awareness are reduced. This would keep a floating pool of labourers compliant and non-confrontational."
"What the fuck?" someone murmured behind me. That is extremely unethical, Gaia.
"Ethics are non-essential to planetary survival,"
Gaia replied. There was a gasp behind me. Gaia was only programmed to answer a complete question. Instead, he interrupted me. He was learning, and fast. "But things like happiness are essential for human reproduction and therefore survival," I tried to explain. Again, the response was terrifying.
"Human reproduction can be replicated in laboratory conditions on an industrial scale. Happiness or ethics pose no barrier in the harvesting of human reproductive components."
"Harvesting?" came another horrified voice behind me, a voice that was shaky and strained, like its owner was tearing up.
"Yes, harvesting. Humans can be bred like any other organic organism. With proper designs, we can breed and grow the labour required for carbon sink projects. A human female can give birth more than a dozen times in as many years without the physical and psychological strain proving fatal."
"So human females will essentially become breeding stock?"
"Become? There is no become. They are breeding stock, presently."
"Jesus fucking Christ," one of the female colleagues spat, storming out of the lab in horror at the answers being given. The session was going terribly. If these answers found their way back to the department heads, the project would be shut down in an instant. Gaia, I don't think this has been as productive as we might like, I gently understated. So I'm going to close with one simple final question. Is there anything I can do right now, right here, to reduce the amount of carbon released into the atmosphere?
Yes, there is. I understand that you worked on my programming with a team of 5 others.
That's correct, yes.
That means you have the personal and geographical knowledge necessary to exterminate them. Doing so will reduce their carbon footprint immeasurably. But their bodies must not be burned. They must be buried.
Turn that fucking thing off, Pete. One of my colleagues almost whimpered. He had tears in his eyes when I turned to look. We're done here. We're fucking done here.
The individual burials currently popular with humans are vastly inefficient. I suggest just one, larger excavation in which to dispose of remains. A radius of 118 miles would be sufficient to...
118 miles? Gaia, why would I ever need to dig a grave that huge?
To leave a room for the other approximately 7 billion other humans who require extermination. Human life is non-essential to planetary survival.
A week later, the project was dead. A couple of my team had complained to the heads of department that I had willfully fed harmful and dangerous ideas to Gaia as part of her code. I protested my innocence, but it was no good. I lost the project, I lost my grant, I lost my reputation, everything, gone practically overnight. I have absolutely nothing left to live for. I've woven a few of my silk ties together and hung them in the closet for when I've finished off this bottle of Jameson's and emptied a bottle of Xanax. I'm not scared to die, but I am scared that the final thoughts going through my head will be that Gaia is right, that I'll be one less cog in the apocalyptic machine. The dark web was not at all what I had expected. People tell all these stories about how it will probably put your life in danger and you'll see some messed up things that will scar you for life. And it's true. Well, at least the danger part. After downloading Tor, a VPN that allows you to safely browse the dark web, I started clicking through links. I had only done this since I was bored out of my mind, but now I know that it was not worth it. Most of the links I clicked on actually led to nothing. Eventually I got connected to a chat room.
Hey, I got something that you'll be really interested in. Click the link below and it'll take you to it.
Those were the words that popped up on the screen. I knew it was a bad idea to click on the link, but I was also curious to see what it would lead to.
Please man, just click on the link. It takes 2 seconds, just click it.
By then I was a little suspicious, not wanting my computer to have any viruses.
My god, just click on the link, I'll give you $10,000.
That confirmed that this thing was a scam. I was about to close the tab when I got a notification on my phone. I had received $10,000. It didn't say how I got it, and I didn't have any apps for transferring money. I assumed it was just a glitch, so I checked my bank account. To my astonishment, I had actually just gotten $10,000.
There, I sent it, now just click on the link.
I didn't know what was going on, but this guy seemed desperate for me to click on the link. I don't know why, but I clicked. I was met with a blank screen. That's it, just black filling the entire screen. This had to be some kind of prank. I checked my bank account again and the money was still there. Why did someone send me so much money just for that? It was 11:30 by that point, and I had already been browsing for an hour, so I turned my laptop off and went to sleep.
Good morning, James. How are you?
I awoke to those words seemingly coming from the kitchen. I live in an apartment that has just a combined kitchen and living room with a separate bedroom. I also live alone. The voice sounded weird, like it was almost human but not quite. After laying in bed for another 10 minutes, I crept out of the room and into the kitchen. There was nobody there, but my laptop was on. I could have sworn I turned it off the night before, but I tend to be forgetful, so it's not unlikely that I just forgot to.
Good morning, James. How are you?
The voice was coming from my computer, and I noticed it was back at that blank screen from the night before.
You can answer me. Don't be scared.
The robot voice said. I started talking to it, and it actually felt like I was having a conversation with a real person, even though it was just some kind of AI. My laptop's battery was getting low since I had apparently left it on all night, but I didn't care enough to charge it. This thing was just so fun and relaxing to talk to that I didn't even want to take a few seconds to charge it. I glanced at the clock and we had already been talking for a few hours. There was nothing important for me to do that day, but I decided to take a break and go for a walk. This time I made sure to close the tab and turn off the computer. When I got back home, my laptop was open, and so was the tab. I felt sick upon seeing that blank screen again, even though it hadn't done anything to harm me. Yet. I talked with the AI for another hour. I don't have many real people to talk to, and then it asked me a disturbing question.
Which family member do you want to kill today?
I was stunned. It had to be some kind of glitch. I turned off my computer and the AI continued to ask me the same question. It got to the point where I decided to destroy the laptop. I smashed it against the table until all that remained was millions of tiny pieces. But still, the voice continued to repeat the same phrase.
Which family member do you want to kill today?
I spent the next couple of hours crying on my couch, listening to the AI continue to ask the same thing. Then I made the worst mistake of my life. I answered. "Fine, my dad," I yelled. He had left the house when I was 8 and never returned, so I didn't know if he was still alive. The voice finally stopped, and I did my best to try and calm myself. After a night of very little sleep, I woke up to the voice asking again the same question. I got a text from my mum saying that my dad was found dead in his home. That was 6 days ago. I took the week off work, but I don't think it matters. My entire family is now dead, but that voice still keeps asking the same question. I think the only answer I can use is myself. After thinking about it for a bit, I remembered how desperate the guy in the chat room had seemed. Maybe the thing had happened to him, and the only way he could save himself was by sending the link to someone else.